Okay, welcome back to my opinion. This little video is going to be about ammunition. A lot of people will buy their defensive ammo, of course, like plus P, 124 grain, etc. But then they'll go to the range to practice with the cheapest 115 grain, for example, 9 millimeter, which is fine, perfectly fine. But you should at least try to, what I suggest, especially if you're going to carry good quality ammunition, carry ammunition in your pistol, especially like plus P, 124, 147 grain. When you do buy your practice ammo, try to buy the ammo that's 124 grain NATO spec, because and most people don't realize your gun, your pistol is, especially if it's a European firearm like Glock, for example, is NATO spec. What that means is it's chambered for NATO ammo. 9 millimeter 9x19 works just fine, but it works best with NATO spec. A lot of people will have problems at the range with certain guns, and I've done this myself, even with Glocks. I'll buy the cheapest ammo, 115 grain, and have feeding problems when I'm practicing at the range. Well, your Glock is not made, and most HK, all of them, they're made in Europe for the most part. And most of these firearms are NATO spec. NATO is a European spec for ammo. So, and it also, NATO spec is 124 grain, and it's loaded just a little hotter than American made 115 grain, for example. So you really want to use NATO spec when you're practicing. It will give you more of it's almost plus P. NATO spec is pretty close to plus P. And that will give you more of what it's going to be like with your plus P or your hotter ammo that you're carrying for defense. And your gun will function better. It's much more likely to function better with NATO, because after all, that's what you're carrying basically. Plus P, NATO, basically very close, very similar. So if you're having problems at the range with 115 grain or something like that, Winchester white box, that's not NATO spec, you'll notice you can find Winchester white box, and then there's Winchester white box NATO. You're like, oh, okay, what's up with that? That ammo NATO spec is actually for European firearms, because Europe, like Glocks, HK, CZ, a lot of the big name brand firearms are, when the guns are chambered and made in Europe, they're made with the thought of NATO spec ammo. That's why they suggest NATO spec ammo. But yeah, so keep that in mind. You'll have better functionality and everything. But anyway, like, share, and subscribe, and be safe and stay safe.